Learning objectives. By the end of this module, you will be able to identify the relationship between gender and the environment, indicate international legal frameworks and commitments on gender equality and the environment, explain how gender equality leads to environmental benefits and provide concrete examples, describe the links between gender and biodiversity, climate change, land degradation, chemicals and waste, and international waters. A sneak peek into numbers. See if you can guess. In how many countries do women have the same legal rights as men to own and access land? Is it 83, 15, 54, 28? Click on the one that you think it is and then click Submit. Actually, only 28 countries give women the same legal rights as men to own and access land. Often, women have access to the land they rely on for food, income and shelter only through their relationship to a male relative, a husband, father or brother. This exposes them to risks of displacement and exploitation. When women have secure rights to land, their status improves and they are better able to take care of themselves, their families and their land. Research demonstrates links between strengthening women's rights to land and women's increased participation in household decision-making. Continue. A sneak peek into numbers. See if you can guess. Drag and drop the percentages in the right circle. Female farmers receive only what percentage of all agricultural extension services from 97 countries? Let's drag and drop 5% into that. Only what percentage of the world's extension agents are women? I would say 10%. Let's drag and drop it there and see if we're correct. Only what percent of total aid for agriculture, forestry and fishing goes to women? We're left with 15%. Let's so add that there. So our answer would be 5% of all agricultural extension services from 97 countries are female farmers. Only 10% of the total aid for agriculture, forestry and fishing goes to women. Only 15% of the world's extension agents are women. So I got that wrong. Let's start again. 5% of female farmers. Only 10% of total aid for agriculture, forestry and fishing goes to women. And only 15% of the world's extension agents are women. Let's click on more information. Agricultural extension services provide farmers with know-how of farming practices, supporting agricultural productivity and food security, especially in developing countries. Because of cultural attitudes, discrimination and a lack of recognition for their role in food production, women enjoy limited benefits from training in new crop varieties and technologies. Let's submit. That's right, we now selected the correct response. It was 5% of all agricultural extension services from 97 countries are women. 10% of total aid for agriculture, forestry and fishing goes to women. 15% of the world's extension agents are women. A sneak peek into numbers. See if you can guess. Of 143 countries, what percentage have at least one law restricting economic equality for women? Is it 10%? 90%, 50%, 60%. Let's hazard a guess and try a very big number like 90%. That's correct. Globally, social structures limit women's ability to own land, borrow and invest money, or start a business. For instance, worldwide, 55% of men have an account at a formal financial institution, while only 47% of women report having one. This gap is largest among lower middle income economies, as well as in South Asia, the Middle East and North Africa. As the need for climate action grows, the distribution of related financing will increase, potentially widening the gap in access to and control over resources between men and women. At the same time, in 2009, women earned $13 trillion globally. This is double the combined GDPs of China and India. By 2028, they will contribute to about 2/3 of worldwide consumer spending. Overview. 1. How are gender and environment connected? 2. What do the main international commitments say? 3. Why is a gender-responsive approach important? 4. How does gender relate to different environmental sectors? Let's look at 1. How are gender and environment connected? Section 1. Environment meets gender. Environmental challenges have complex social and economic dimensions. The 2017 Global Environment Facility (GEF) policy on gender equality states that men and women use natural resources differently and, as a result, they are affected differently by changes to these resources. Gender inequality and social exclusion increase the negative effects of environmental degradation on women and girls. UN Environment observes that the only way to identify and implement the best policies for the environment and sustainable development is to close the gender gap. Read on to learn more. 1.2 Gender Equality Now. Women and men have different roles and responsibilities in managing natural resources. The differentiation varies from region to region, but in almost all cases women have unequal access to and control over natural resources, unequal distribution of benefits, and less decision-making power over their use. Gender inequality simply doesn't make sense on any level. Gender equality and women's empowerment are matters of fundamental human rights, social justice, and a precondition for achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Click on the video to find out more.
Gender inequality doesn't make sense on any level. By marginalizing the rights of women, we deny ourselves the opportunity to lift millions of men, women, and children out of poverty, not to mention the chance of a just and fair world. From birth, girls and boys, women and men are expected by society to play certain roles and behave in certain ways based on traditions, religion, and other beliefs. These behaviors are learned and shape the gender norms in a society. Unfortunately, in many countries, gender norms create disadvantages for women. Often, girls are not sent to school. When they become women, they then have limited ability to earn money or realize their potential. Rural women play a major role in agricultural development. However, in many developing countries, women cannot formally own land. Without land, they cannot get loans to invest in their farms or businesses. This also means they have no control over the use of land or the benefits that come from it. Men generally control the household decisions, like how to use the family's assets. These disadvantages are often reinforced by practices that limit women's access to services, like training. Cultural beliefs can also restrict women's opportunities, such as in parts of Zambia where women cannot paddle their boats as it is considered bad omen. The result of these issues? Women remain poor, and agricultural production cannot reach its potential, perpetuating poverty and hunger in the developing world. The social norms that limit women's opportunities need to be understood and then changed. By taking a gender-transformative approach, we can influence social norms and bridge the gaps in access to resources and services between men and women in a lasting manner. Change is needed on many levels, and both men and women must be involved for it to happen. Research and development organizations need to invest in programs that promote gender equality alongside improving productivity and incomes. Policies need to be implemented that increase women's access to services and resources. Communities need to support women as farmers and as leaders. Increasing women's voice and agency is a valuable end in its own right. When development organizations, policies, and communities support the success of women, we have a chance to reduce extreme poverty and boost shared prosperity for girls and boys, women and men around the world.
Exercise. What does gender mean? Test your understanding. Read the definition on the left and match it with the corresponding term on the right by clicking on the letter. A. Gender. B. Gender gap. C. Gender balance. D. Gender equality. F. Gender responsive approach. Gender gap. Any disparity and inequality between women's and men's condition due to their position or role in society. It concerns inequalities in terms of their participation, their access to opportunities, rights, power to influence and make decisions, incomes and benefits, and control and use of resources. Gender balance. The equal and active participation of women and men in all areas of decision making and in access to and control over resources and services. Gender equality. The equal rights, responsibilities and opportunities of women and men and girls and boys. This does not mean that women and men will become the same, but that women's and men's rights, responsibilities and opportunities will not depend on whether they are born male or female. A gender-responsive approach. The particular needs, priorities, power structures, status and relationships between women and men are recognized and adequately addressed in the design, implementation and evaluation of activities. The approach seeks to ensure that women and men are given equal opportunities to participate in and benefit from an intervention, and promotes targeted measures to address inequalities and advance the empowerment of women. Gender and environment nexus. Hover over each circle and learn more. Start from the top. Gender. What are the key aspects in the relationship between gender and the environment? Livelihoods. The environment is affected by cultural, social, and economic processes. This has implications on how women and men access and use natural resources and impacts people's livelihoods. Social norms. Gender relations influence how households, communities, and institutions are organized. It also affects how decisions are made and resources managed. Gender roles. The interaction between women, men, and the environment is differentiated by their roles, needs, responsibilities, and power relations. Environmental changes and gender inequalities. Gender inequalities affect the sustainable management of natural resources. Environmental degradation and climate change tend to increase these inequalities. Environmental interventions are not gender neutral. Environmental policies and projects impact men and women differently. Point of reflection. What does gender equality mean to you? Write your reflections down. Key message, section 1. Understanding the relationship between gender and environment is key to addressing environmental challenges in an equitable and sustainable way.